What's going on, everybody? It's another episode of Buy, Build, Sell. I'm Jason, Los Angeles contractor and developer, and this is Buy, Build, Sell. We are here at my Radcliffe project. Now, if you remember this project, you can go right here, see it from the beginning. If not, I'll take you a little bit through it. Come on, let's check it out. So we are currently right now in the ADU section of the project, okay? This is a two-story ADU, 1,200 square feet, just in the back of the property. It's incredible. I love this thing. It's like an awesome guest house, essentially. And we got a lot of stuff happening today. But the main thing that we're focusing on, I'll take you through a little bit of it. We've already gone through it a little bit before. I'll take you through a little bit more, but really, we're focusing on insulation. That's this stuff right here. All right? Now, don't touch it. I'm kidding. You can touch it. You don't want to touch a lot of it. For some reason, like there's little particles. It's all fiberglass, okay? This is fiberglass. Fiberglass insulation. Basically what it's doing is it's reducing airflow that happens from the exterior of the house to the interior of the house, and the other way too. So it's keeping the air inside the house as best as possible, and it's keeping as much air from outside the house out as much as possible. There are multiple different kinds of insulations. Should I go through them? Probably not. I don't have enough examples on site to kind of give you guys enough examples, but there's wool insulation, there's spray foam insulation, and there's fiberglass insulation. The more dense the insulation is, the more thick it is in the interior of it, the more dense is the right word for it. I don't know what else to tell you guys, but it doesn't matter how thick it is. It matters on how strong it is from the interior, okay? That's the more R value that you're gonna get from it. So there's multiple R values, 13, 19, 28, 30, 30 is a pretty common one. As you go up, beyond 30, I believe, you need to get more and more dense. So you're gonna be looking at wool or spray foam insulation for, I believe, above that. And especially when you're getting to the thicknesses. So in this particular build, we have a 2x6 stud, okay? And this is a batt insulation that's already pre-cut and pre-assembled. That's gonna stick right into here and fit perfectly in a 2x6 bay, okay? When you go 2x4, again, your R value is gonna be dropped. And if you need, so if you're on a 2x4, which is what this would be, okay? If you're in a 2x4 and you need to reach a, let's say, an R30 value, you may not be able to get an R30 value from a 2x4 batt. So you may actually need to find something more dense that'll get you to that R30 value in a smaller space, okay? That's pretty much insulation for you. We're gonna go through it and kind of just talk briefly about it, but I'll show you something kind of interesting, kind of cool. Like if we're looking up at the spaces here, you get a lot of these corners that genuinely just can't be filled. Now, looking at things like this, where you have an electrical box or you have wires that you kind of need to cut around, that's leaving space in your walls for airflow to get through. That's basically giving air the opportunity to come through. And air, just like water, finds a hole. Okay, if there's a hole somewhere, water's gonna find it. If there's a hole somewhere, air's gonna find it. So we really try to make sure that our windows are nice and sealed all around them, the doors are nice and sealed all around them. Now you can see that we put spray foam insulation on the joints of the doors, and we do the same thing for the windows. Now in the small cracks that you'll see, like at the ends of the roof, where we can't necessarily fit some insulation in there, we're gonna spray foam that as well to make sure we're getting all of those corners nice and clean, nice and tight, and we're eliminating airflow in the house. We wanna get this, I don't wanna say this is gonna be like a net zero home or anything like that. There's definitely allowances that the city allows for. We're not going crazy on it, but we are trying to get it as best as possible within realm of what we're dealing with here to really keep the house as efficient as possible. We're putting good units in here, good airflow, and all of those sort of things. So really focusing, we gotta give good attention to it. If we don't, what was the point of doing the other hard work, right? So insulation is a very important aspect of this. So if you'll find moments like this where you'll see a cutout, right? I'm not quite sure why there's a cutout there for that particular reason, but that's a mistake and we'll fix that. In any other spot where we have a cutout, I usually actually have them go with that spray foam, go around the cutout, so we're filling in that void and we're trying to get as tight as we possibly can. So we're really getting as close to the goal as possible, okay? As you can see, we're upstairs in the ADU right now. The ceiling is done. The exterior walls are done, but not the interior walls, okay? This is a personal choice that I make on every single house that I build. Do interior walls or don't do interior walls. It's like a Romeo and Juliet story, okay? Am I gonna make it? Am I not gonna make it? It really ends up coming down to budget on each project and seeing where I can wiggle and where I can get through it. Now, normally for me, installation ends up being at about $1.50 a square foot. Sometimes on a bigger project, I might say, I can afford it. I have more room in the budget. On a smaller project, I may say I really can't because it ends up being too expensive. So I really weigh those options. 9 out of 10, I'll usually go insulating the whole entire house, because to me, even like if we're going into this room now, hypothetically, this room has 2 walls that are insulated and 2 walls that are not, right? You can see that right behind me. So you're in this room, you got the AC going, and you know, man, it's just not getting to the right temperature. It's not getting where you want it to be. So for me, I'm like, man, like longevity wise, for the few thousand extra dollars that I might spend on insulation, it's worth it just to be like, listen, every single wall is insulated and it's perfect. And if you're having a problem, it's because you don't know how to work the thermostat. Not me. That's a joke. Listen, things happen. You can't always get right. But I do try to go that extra mile, especially for my houses. The reason why they're not done right now is because the first thing we need to do is focus on inspection items. So interior walls are almost never required for inspection. It is done so by the kindness of someone's heart, mine usually. They're not needed. No one's requiring it. No one's saying, hey, where's your insulation on your 2x4 wall on the interior? No one's asking for it. What's required, okay? Exterior walls, any wall that leads to the outside. If there's, I'll give you a for instance, okay? Let's say we were talking about this spot right here. Let's say this bay was outside and this bay was inside. So there was maybe a bump out that led to a second wall behind this wall. This bay would not be necessary. This one would not, okay? So just to kind of give you that understanding of what's required. The goal is, obviously on all of my projects, is to push as fast as possible, but keep the same quality in line, right? So we're really always trying to focus on getting the job done, pushing forward, getting everything accomplished that we need to, okay? That means first, do everything that's required for inspection, so we can have inspector tomorrow, everything is done, and we may not be finished. We may not be done because we may not have all the interiors done, but all of a sudden, inspection's passed, we can keep the job moving, drywall can start on the ceiling or the walls, wherever they want to start on the exterior walls. So I can have drywall starting while installation is finishing up. And then by the time drywall gets to the interior walls, they're ready, right? My little trick, I hope you enjoyed that. Let's go downstairs. Let's take a look at some of the other things we do to prepare for installation now that we're rocking and rolling on the installation, okay? Now the reason we're filming in the ADU, it's a smaller space, easier to catch things, easier to find things. We don't have to go through 4,000 plus square feet of house to kind of give you a lesson, right? No reason. Now, one of the things that we really need to make sure we're doing when we're doing this is that we're sealing the house. Now, one of the biggest things that I do in my house is that I'm not sure other people do, truthfully, is if you see right here where all the plumbing comes up into the foundation, there's open space right behind that pipe where we literally have to cut that wood, get the pipe through the wood, and nothing is ever getting sealed there. So I actually go ahead and I take concrete and fill that void up so that way it's completely sealed, and then we spray foam insulation there as well. Double up on it and make sure it's completely sealed, get all those voids and cracks filled, and that way when we put the bat in there, we don't have any air leaking into that section, okay? So I showed you in the kitchen, the ADU, kind of a spot, a voided spot that we need to fill in with concrete. This is what that looks like right here. So we have our pipe coming out, and you can see that we actually had to cut the wood to get that pipe to come through. And we filled it in with concrete so that way it'll completely harden and solidify there. And then in the joints between the plywood and the mud sill, we put another line, a beaded line of the spray foam insulation, something very similar to that. And that will complete the seal to make sure that we don't have any air leaking through our house. The next thing we do also is making sure that every single bay, every single space in the house is completely cleaned. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about the floor, But what I am talking about is all of the bays, wherever insulation goes. The fireplaces are definitely very important. It's so addictive to watch them do this. I think one time I watched you do a whole entire house all by yourself. So these things are actually really light, but when they're packed densely, they're heavy. Now, fireplaces are a combustible item, meaning there's fire. It could actually explode, it could pop, it could, you know, they're a dangerous thing to have in the house in some respect. Now, obviously, the way we do them, hopefully we try to keep it as safe as possible, but that doesn't mean that it's not a fire unit. Fire is actually happening in the box and it's creating heat. So everything around it creates heat. So we want to make sure that nothing is combustible around this space. We have clearances between our pipes and the wood, and we want to make sure that this box is completely clean and free of debris, so that way we don't have any issues later. The same thing that we clean this one like crazy. Look at this, very clean. I wouldn't say it's like wiped down clean, but it's vacuumed, it's clean. You're not gonna have any of that wood dust in the air when you close this thing off. You wanna kind of keep this as clean as possible so that insulation goes in, drywall goes on, and you don't have any lingering dust behind the wall, okay? Guys, if you have a minute, press that subscribe button, press that like button, and of course, hit that bell. It lets you know I'm uploading. I upload twice a week. You guys should be watching those videos. They're a lot of fun, and hopefully you'll learn something too. I'll see you on the next video, and let's start a conversation in the comments.